Hello and welcome to Stylish Chats with Creatives. Today on the podcast, I've got Luke O'Brien, and he is a graphic designer and owner of O'Brien's in Holmfirth. O'Brien's is a beer cafe and shop, and they also run lots of workshops and running clubs and all sorts of things out of there. Hello, Luke.
Hello, you all right?
Yeah, how you doing?
All right, yeah, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. We were just chatting about all the hay fever, weren't we? Like how happy we're all feeling.
Suffering with it very badly. But my recommendation is to bulldoze all the fields and just turn them into car parks or something. Parking's terrible around here anyway, so it'd be, be a win-win.
Yeah. Aren't they doing something with the market in Holmfirth?
Yeah, they made the terrible decision to bulldoze a really old building and make a car park for it, so they have the market in this building, and then they're going to bulldoze it and have a market in the car park on top of where the building was once.
That doesn't make any sense.
No. They sort of pitched it apparently as some sort of traffic relief thing or whatever, but there is already a car park, so they're going to pick up maybe another dozen spaces. And then, but when the market's on, the market will occupy the same amount of footprint as the current building does.
Yes.
So it doesn't...
This is not actually beneficial at all, is it?
No. And it's going to cost like £2 million, and it's going to take a year, and it's going to shut all the roads. And as you know, as a resident, the road system isn't very convenient around Holmfirth. And it'll just be a nightmare, basically.
Yeah. I wonder how it's going to affect town, because like I have to drive through town to get to Manchester, or the other way to get to Leeds or Huddersfield or whatever. So it's like, I wonder how it's going to affect businesses for people who do drive, because there's a lot of older people who come into town and, drive in and park up. And
yeah. Are you saying town as in Holmfirth?
Yeah.
You calling it a town?
Yeah.
Right,
I get told off. I get told off all the time by my neighbour.
Going down to town.
Yeah. She's like, "Do you mean Huddersfield?" I'm like, "No, I mean
Holmfirth."
And she's like,
"I saw it for a minute. You're about Huddersfield." Yeah, I think it'll cause major disruptions. At some points, they've got to shut each road, and there's only 3 roads to go at.
Yeah.
So, and it's sort of that one-way system thing. So yeah, it'll cause an absolute nightmare, and it'll disrupt loads of stuff as well. Like they're going to have to cover up the river to like do the construction, I imagine, and stuff like that. They'll have to do all sorts of. They've got to get big machinery in and excavate the site and all this kind of stuff. They're building it's like not a multi-story, but it's like because it's on a bank. There'll be a car park on the top and then like a little one underneath, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, from the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't know. The council's I always think it's a bit of a funny one, because they try and improve stuff, but in the interim, they're actually like disturbing quite a lot of like community stuff, because they'll end up disturbing all the festivals, like the folk festival, the arts festival, all this other stuff that brings money into the town.
Yeah. I think they're trying to. I think they've got good intentions, because it'll then open up the possibility of having a sort of stage or like a kind of performing space in the car park, which they're going to give permission to do. So like it's all already have, baked into like the whole thing is already like permission to put on events and things and stuff. That's the council will kind of like probably help facilitate it in some way. But I think it's just an oversight I think in my kind of approach, I would not bulldoze an existing building.
Yeah.
Just to put a car park on there to do the same thing. And also the weather's terrible here. I mean, no, it's hot now, but the weather's awful here most of the time. So I think putting on an outdoor market is a bit of a misstep, because it rains like 90% of the time.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like I saw a bit of the plans for it, and I was just like, I'm so confused why you're doing this, like so confused. But if they've already said that they're gonna let people use it as a bit of an entertainment space during the festivals, maybe it'll expand things like that. So it's like short-term misery for long-term happiness, I guess.
I think so. I think they've got good. I spoke to some of the people at the council, and I think this plan got approved a while ago, and I think it just all got put on hold because of COVID or blah blah blah. So I think they've sort of been left with an approved plan that they've got to kind of carry out. But I think that the idea being that they're going to try and make the most of it, but who knows, and whether it'll get done on time or not, I don't know.
Have you, as a local business owner, were you like given the option to kind of say to them like, oh, I don't know, yes, no?
It was all voted for just before, like literally about a few weeks before we opened, and so we didn't have any kind of say in it, but I did sort of weigh in and just sort of say, it's just a real shame to knock a building down. It doesn't seem very eco-friendly. It doesn't seem very sort of like, like a good approach to just rip something down and build something new. It doesn't seem very economical. Like I just said, can't something be done with what we've got? And the building's horrible. The market building, and what used to stand on there was a really, really nice market building, and they ripped that down to build a modern one. But I think that I said to everyone, I think maybe we should do like a night market and have like music and blah. And they were all a bit like, yeah, that sounds great. But then they also all just voted for it to be demolished and turned into a car park. I mean, people literally write songs about this what's that song? Paved Paradise or whatever. And Paved Paradise.
Yeah.
It's just so like crazy they're going to just turn it into a car park.
Yeah. And I think you're right with like night markets and stuff. My sister lives in Frome in Somerset, and they have once a month in the summer they have night markets, and then they have like a monthly crafters market. So like I think, was it Holmfirth Day, or there's some sort of like festival day where the market was full of crafting stores last year. And like, so it's that kind of thing, but once a month.
Yeah, the food festival.
Oh yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was really good, actually.
It was good. They're I think that they've got, again, I think a lot of this stuff is really well intentioned, but Holmfirth's one of these places where it kind of wrestles with like the past and the present and the future a lot. And the past is this old kind of market town image, Last of the Summer Wine, really Yorkshire. And then like the present is people, like people like you and me, like younger people youngish people who move into the area to, get a bigger house, like, nice views, go walk the dog, stuff like that, start families, work from home, more comfortable lifestyle, I guess, from a city. And then in the future of that means that those people will want the amenities from cities on their doorstep, which means things like nice restaurants, nice shops, gyms, bars and things like that aren't relying on this old-fashioned kind of summer wine trade thing, Yorkshire traditional sort of stuff, which is, there's nothing wrong with any of that. It's just that's just a part of the past, I think. And I think that Holmfirth needs to look inwards to, as like a community, to try and think, well, what do the residents want? What's like going to benefit them? Because it's very much a thing of the past where it looked outwards as a tourist destination, and it's had that like in its back pocket for a long time, but it's 50 years since Last of Summer Wine this weekend. They're doing a big thing for it. And then it's kind of probably time to put it to bed.
Yeah. Yeah. We went on the Last of Summer Wine tour with...
Oh, did you do it in the old van?
Yeah, with my in-laws, right? Because they were like, oh, let's go on it. It'd be like fun, to just see like what's around. So he's like pointing at houses. He drives down our road. So I knew that he went past, right? And he points at our house just as we're getting the kitchen renovated, says piles of shit outside. And he's like, oh, this house was in Last of the Summer Wine in this episode, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, Jesus Christ, there's like literally looks like a building site and you're pointing at a house.
All
like,
tourists.
Just, oh my God, the gas box was hanging off. There was like piles of old kitchen. And then the amount of times, Luke, honestly, I've been caught in my pajamas or our bathroom faces the road. And it's caught, they've gone past and caught me like I sat on the toilet or whatever. And it, like, there must be so many pictures of me on Facebook now. Just like.
Have you looked the episode up that it's in?
Yeah, it's like a Houdini, one of the last episodes, I think. And it was like a Houdini episode or something. And it's before Next Door was built. So the person who used to own this house used to own the land next door as well. So, you can see all the bushes and stuff and like the front door and things. And it's before they renovated down, and took the gully out from in between two houses. But it was just really embarrassing. We were like, gee, we've got to sort the front of our house out. And now I'm a little bit like, right, can't have any weeds out. Got to make sure the like windows are clean.
And this is the problem though. You feed, you're inadvertently feeding into the Last of the Summer Wine industrial complex.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm like, should we get a blue plaque? Like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, should we charge people for pictures of the houses?
Yeah, let them in. Let them have a little wander around for a bit of cash. Set up a little breakfast spot.
Yeah, tea and coffee. I'd be a millionaire. Honestly,
yeah,
it's
probably.
I mean, like, it's nice. We knew that Holmfirth had like quite a lot of like Last of Summer Wine bits and bobs, but I quite like the community it's got. It's a really nice community here, and it's like you don't have to get involved if you don't want, but there's so many. I feel like they pump in a lot with the arts festivals and the folk festivals and food things and stuff. There's quite a lot going on, but it's you're right. How do they keep it so that the residents are happy as well as the tourists that are coming in?
Yeah. What I'm interested to know what made you guys move here.
So we were in Stockport, and we found out that our neighbours 2 doors down were utter tossers during COVID. So there was an incident that I won't air, but I'll tell you about when I next see you. And we were looking at Glossop actually, because we're in a 3-bed house in Reddish, and we were like, actually, we don't need 3 beds. We want like a 2 up, 2 down.
Yeah.
But because we were then fighting with people downsizing and people getting onto the market, it was we got outbid because it was that crazy time of people leaving the city.
The sort of fever pitch house moving thing.
Fuck me. It was like we got outbid on several houses by about 50 grand a time. And these were like 2 up, 2 downs with like tiny gardens. And then I saw Cicely posting loads and loads of stories about here. So I was like, Nath, let's go for a day. Looked on Rightmove and saw this house. And then we were like, let's go have a look. Saw it in the sideways rain, wind, everything. Fell in love with the view, in love with they've done all the renovating, like the big renovating, should we say. The bathroom's really nice. And we just went, sod it, let's do it. But because we've been used to overbidding, overbid on this house. And then the mortgage company were like, yeah, it's probably not worth that. And by this point, I was so stressed out. I was literally like so stressed. I went, I don't care, we're having it, because we had a bit of equity left over from the sale of our other house. And that was it. We just ended up here. But Nath wanted to be more country. But then I needed to be in between Manchester and Leeds for work.
Yeah.
So it needed to be like a halfway house commuting. And then he changed his job and he's out of Sheffield now. So, because you've got 3 cities on your door, 4 cities really, if you count Huddersfield.
Yeah, it's really, really good for that. Like, I think a lot of people don't get like why people live in Holmfirth, but I mean, let's just say it's been voted one of the top places to live, I think, wasn't it? Was it the Guardian?
Guardian, yeah.
You're less than less than 1 hour easy from the biggest cities in the north of England.
Yeah.
Minus obviously Newcastle, Liverpool and stuff, but Manchester, Leeds, Sheffield.
Yeah.
But then you've also got places. You've got Wakefield, Barnsley, that are sort of getting there as well, like a bit better places to go. And you're just right in the middle of all of it.
Yeah.
But you live in the middle of the countryside.
Yeah, that's it. And I think we found everyone's so friendly and wanting to help you out. People want to have a chat with you. And I think that's quite a nice sense of community, but it's different from where I grew up, where everybody knew my granddad, my grandma, my mum, my dad, my aunties, my uncles. It's less suffocating than that because I didn't grow up here, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, same with me.
Yeah. It's hard, isn't it? When you're especially when you're a teenager and someone's like, oh, they ring your mum and go, did you know that Charlotte's been out doing this? And you're like, oh, just let me be a teenager, please.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there's probably a bit of that if you're a kid that's grown up around here, but it's just such a nice. It's like one of those places from the Truman Show where you walk down the street and you're just like, hi, and then they're like, oh, how's the baby? And you're like, yeah, good. How's the dog?
Yeah,
and it's all a bit
yeah.
It makes just nipping to the shop a little bit long. But,
yeah.
It's a good reason why.
Yeah, we just really like it. It's such we've got because we're on the top of one of the hills looking down into Holmfirth, so we've got such a good view, and it's just nice to be somewhere that isn't so built up, and like we say, the neighbours are nice and the community is just nice. I went to charity shops yesterday, did a little loop, and one of the ladies stopped me, one of the older ladies in the charity shop, and she was like, oh, I love your tattoos, blah, blah, blah. And she stood there chatting to me for 20 minutes. I don't even know who she is. She's just
You'll see her again now. You'll just see her all the time now.
Yeah,
and she'll be like, oh, you're the tattoo lady with the tattoos.
Yeah, that's it. That's the way it is, I think. But yeah, it's such a nice place. And we've been here a year now, so it's feel properly settled and it's just a nice place. And everyone who comes, my mum finally came a couple of weekends ago, and she didn't even look at the new kitchen. She just went straight out to the patio doors, opened the doors, and was out on the balcony and was just like, all the pictures don't do it justice, it just looks lovely. I'm like, we've just got a new kitchen, mum. And she's like, no,
kitchen costs loads of money.
Yeah,
the view's free.
Yeah. And she's stood there with a cup of tea oh, this is amazing, looking out. So funny. So how did you get into your graphic design? What's your path into graphic designing?
Well, it's so I think I was pretty fortunate, right? So when I was about kind of 14-ish years old, I was really into music. I'm massive into music, and I was always in bands and all that kind of stuff. And I think I got into it when I was about sort of 13, 14 years old by making stuff for our bands. We'd have these bands and we'd make the biggest excitement for me was making a little fake album cover or whatever,
Yeah.
But really basic stuff. I think I downloaded a bit of a hooky copy of Photoshop. Back in the day when you could crack it.
Yeah.
And just literally messed about with that. I tried to download Illustrator and it just baffled me. And then it just got into it like that. So then sort of got on this path where I became the local kind of, within our group of bands, I kind of became the local sort of poster guy, or whatever. If we had gigs and stuff, I'd make our own posters and covers and things like that. We were never very successful. We weren't a very successful band. And then I was pretty set on knowing that was. I didn't know what graphic design was, but basically had this sort of image in my head of Peter Saville, the designer for Joy Division and stuff. So I was a big Joy Division fan. And I was like, oh, it's so cool. And I was like, I'll just do that for a job. And there is no money in designing album covers of it. Well, for the bands the caliber of bands that I could get to pay me to do it. And then I went to Burton College, Burton on Trent. So I'm from the Midlands, and I signed up for a graphic design course. Turn up, and they put me on the media studies course by accident, basically. And they were like, "Try it out, give it a few days. If you don't like it, then we can just switch you over to graphics. It's the same tutors and stuff."
Yeah.
And they were like, it's basically the same modules, but you'll learn a bit about, moving image and things like that. So I was like, all right, yeah, I'll give it a go. And then I fucking loved it. So loved like doing like film and stuff, but then like worked out that you could combine graphics and film. I loved like title sequences and things like that. So I learned like After Effects a little bit, but I still was like still chomping at the bit to kind of do design. And then kind of like did college, and then I went to Leeds College of Art. So I got an unconditional place there. Everywhere else required me to do a foundation year in art. I'd never done one. My school I went to a really small school in South Africa for a little short stint. My parents moved out there. And they told me I couldn't do art. I had to do drama. So there's a lot of things at this point saying that I shouldn't do graphic design. But then I like took some work, which is basically band stuff. And they told us to take some work of designers that we liked, and sort of chat to the tutor. And they were just like, "Do you want a place in the course?" And I was just like, "What do you mean?" They were just like, we can offer you an unconditional place right here. You don't have to accept it yet, but we want to hear from you in a few days. And it's the first time I ever went to Leeds. It's the first time I've ever been to Yorkshire. And I loved it. And I just, went to Leeds College of Art. Back then it was really small. So it's now called Leeds Arts University. But back then it was really small. There was only 35 people in my whole year.
Oh, wow.
And it was really, really good. Like they worked just like dogs. Like we were expected to be in the studio from like 9 till 5 every single day, at least, plus extracurricular work and studying and self-study and things like that. The course leader at the time was called Fred, and he kind of wrote the course. And he was just great. Like, he was really hard on everyone, but he kind of just pushed us all a lot. And a lot of the people who've come out of my year have gone on to very good, successful careers in graphic design. I think it's a real testament to that period of time at Leeds College of Art, that they were like really pushing the students, and they were expecting a lot from us as well. But I just loved it. I just thought, oh, this is the place to be, taking it seriously. We're all committed. The people that weren't committed were just like chopped, gone. If they didn't turn up for a couple of lessons, they were just out of there.
Yeah.
Because it was so small, it was so new. I think it was like the third or fourth year the program had been running. And I think that they sort of wanted it to be like a kind of cutting edge program. They were just brutal with you, but I think it sort of helped form like a real strong work ethic in all the people that graduated. Even those that aren't designers have gone on to have really successful jobs in other things that have just, I think, that kind of like really hardcore work ethic has really kind of it's been instilled in them. And then I graduated Leeds College of Art. Briefly, me and my friends tried to start our own studio, which was a disaster. And then we all sort of just splintered off. And I started working for this really big digital agency, which is not what I wanted to do, but got to take a job, haven't you?
Yeah.
Just get a foot on the ladder. Which was called 26, still going today. But it was all kind of like churn of work, and you know, that those agencies have got a place in the world for sure, but it just wasn't my kind of like
cup of tea.
Yeah, it wasn't my direction. I thought, I fucking want to design album covers and stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of just stuck at that for a year, and then went to a studio in Sheffield, which was a brand new studio run by two guys called Ol and Dave. And the studio is called Side by Side. And that was a real kind of turning point for me, because I'd gotten the job off the back of basically like a creative pitch to them almost. Mm-hmm. Did loads of research about them. Found out they loved barbecue food and beer and music. So I sent them like a lunch from a local barbecue restaurant.
Yeah.
With like, but it was all like, I took them the bag to put it in and all this stuff, this receipt, which was attached to it, which was my CV. And then it had like a playlist on it. And I made this whole like experiencing, because that's what they were like all about. Kind of experience things. And they just give me a job straight away, which was really cool.
That's cool.
And so I worked for them for a bit, and then just kind of buffeted about. Didn't really, I was their first employee, so that came with like a lot of difficulties and stuff like that. It was great to work for them, but then I think that I kind of sort of thought, it wasn't that I was downtrodden by things, but I was just like, again, I wasn't in the place where I wanted to be in terms of like work and stuff. Like, it was great work doing it, but I had this sort of still had this like feeling that I was like wanting to chase something different. And I was like, oh, damn, like I've got that feeling again. And then we went traveling for ages.
Oh, nice.
So went traveling and then come back and then did some agency work again, and then started freelancing where my wife worked, which was an agency called Build in Leeds, ran by Michael and Nikki Place. Very sort of like highfalutin creative graphic design agency. They're famous because they worked for a studio called Designers Republic in Sheffield. And they sort of contributed to the Wipeout game series and like Coca-Cola early stuff.
Nice.
So went there, did some freelance there, worked on some really big stuff, some big NDA, blah, for a famous search engine. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So did all these really big jobs, and then kind of freelance a bit more, then worked for these guys in Huddersfield called Kenyon Western, or I said Anne. They're no longer going anymore, but they did a lot of the work for Coca-Cola. Mm-hmm. So they're sort of, it's crazy. A lot at the time, Coca-Cola's kind of main creative was centered in Huddersfield, with like a few people, which is just crazy.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah. And did that for a bit, and then I just freelance lots, just tried loads of stuff out, and then I ended up working for one of my old clients in one of the studios, which was a brewery in North Yorkshire called Badco. And then I became like their sort of in-house designer / ended up doing a lot of things. I think I ended up in like sales at one point, pretty much. So then that kind of led me down this like beer path, and then that's sort of where I ended up with opening the bar and stuff, because I sort of went down this path of like getting the inside knowledge of the beer industry. I'd always liked craft beer and stuff, and then got into the bar, and this is kind of where I ended. So it was all a bit of a career of like never feeling like I found like the right thing to do the whole time, and that like feeling of it creeping in all the time, and then I'm like, I've got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And it was just that all the time, like over and over and over. And I realised I was just in this whole like pattern of of just never feeling quite like satisfied creatively, but realizing it was really the only problem was me that just didn't appreciate like doing the work, I guess.
Yeah. I do think as a creative as well, I get really if I'm in one place for too long, I'm like a bit like a caged chicken. I'm like, I need to get out. Like I just can't. I feel like my creativity dwindles. I just kind of get a bit, I don't know, like swamped with just day
Yeah,
to day. It's hard to describe, but like some people get on really well full time, and then I think some people it just doesn't suit. But also then it's like you say, following your creative path and where it takes you, really, isn't it? And listening to your own beat of your own drum, really.
yeah. I think I sort of suited. I suit an agency in terms of like I like I enjoy like the social aspect of an agency kind of thing.
Yeah,
But I enjoy like the freedom, like the creative freedom of like freelancing or doing your own kind of stuff. And I think that for me was like a real problem because then I would get kind of so involved in like a thing, and then I would get frustrated that I didn't have the creative freedom to explore like my idea
yeah,
fully. It was always like your version of someone else's idea, and I didn't like that. I always, and I still find it today, like I find it it unnerves me, like the start of a project where you get kind of a brief and stuff, and then I'm one of these people where like I literally read a brief and I'll get an idea like within minutes of like just digesting it, and then that to me is like job done.
yeah, yeah,
Like, so I think to myself, but then because if you're a freelancer, you've got to justify spending time, so you've got to explore an idea, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, and then but if you're in an agency, you kind of want to be the guy with the idea, like the guy with the good idea, so you sort of rush off, try and formulate it, and then to have things just picked apart.
yeah.
I used to find that so frustrating because I'm like, I'm like in my head, I was like, I know this is a good idea.
Yeah.
Why are you shitting all over it?
Yeah. Yeah.
But obviously, I just believed in my ideas, and then it's sort of, I just always struggled with that difficulty of like creativity, but then having to work within the structure of like a freelancer. Because even people have this like idea about freelancing, you still really are, unless you're unless you're doing like your own designs and your own output and you're publishing it, you're still then sort of chained by like the conventions of studio and the hierarchy and the this and the that. And then it's even worse when you're a freelancer because it's sort of like you're brought in to do a singular task.
Yeah.
And you go, all right, we're going to hire you for 3 weeks. We're going to do this thing, and you've got to complete it by 3 weeks. And you're like, maybe sometimes you can go, well, I could just do this in like 2 days, but you want the 3 weeks of work.
Yeah.
So you sort of have to go through the motions and the processes and this and that. And I never found like the thing that like made me feel like, oh, I could just do this for my whole career now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of the same though, because I've dipped in and out of full time. I've dipped in and out of permalance work. And I fully understand the whole thing of like, you have your ideas, but then someone else says, actually, this is our like style guide. This is our rule book. This is what we actually need for this client. Because I go in and go like, say it's for styling for a big supermarket. And I'm like, oh, this would be really nice. This would be really nice. And they're like, but client hates it. So you have to go with what they like. And you're right. Like, unless you're producing your own work for your own clients and you've got a bigger say, you just got to crack on, haven't you?
You just got to swallow it. You've just got to like, I think that was the biggest thing for me. I think that's why I struggled at Side by Side, because like we were doing really cool work and, you know, working on some like nice stuff, but it was me. I was doing some creative work. Then I had my 2 bosses, Ol and Dave, and then we had the client, and then Ol and Dave kind of managed the relationships with the clients. And I always found like I wanted to just show something to the client. I just wanted to say something to them and be like, look at this. But it had to go through Ol and Dave's, you know, kind of filter of is this what side by side's work should look like? Is this right for the client? Is it something we could, potentially publish? Is it like this? Is that? And it has to tickle these boxes, and you're like, well, no, there's just one logo that the client sees, and we just need to show them this and just see what they think. But there's all these like complicated kind of processes and all this stuff bolted into, and there's always like agendas placed on everything. And I always found that like wholesomely frustrating, because I always just wanted to like speak to the client, and just say, you're right, John, I've tried your logo. What do you think of this? And then give me some feedback. And if you don't like it, I'll go and do another one.
Yeah.
And it's just that kind of like back, because I always thought as a creative, you should have done your job. Like 80% of your time should be spent before you've even really kind of put pen to paper. And by the time that you're going to create something, this sort of point of like, right, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to come up with an idea. You should basically have the answer at your fingertips anyway. And I think that's what separates like good designers and bad designers, is that if you do all that due diligence, you do all that like research, and you get involved in the client and the brief, and you understand what they want and what they want to see and what they're expecting, and blah, blah, and then you just present them with it. It's such an easy process, and you don't have this kind of like grey area of like, can we change this? Can we change that? And it ends up looking like a million miles away from what you intended to create at the start.
Yeah, I think that the back and forth sometimes as well, we get that in the photography side. And if people don't put in their kind of like limits of how many edits they can do, you can spend all day on one shot, and it's maybe not even the most used shot out of it, might just be for an Instagram story. And I think like that grey area is definitely, it's hard to navigate sometimes, and especially like you say, if you've got so many people to please before it even is shown to the person who okays it.
Yeah, I mean, I was chatting with I've got a friend that works for I don't know where I should say where he works, for a supermarket chain that is orange in their branding. And hold on 1 second. Sorry, my pregnant wife is messaging me. So I've got this friend, and he works for a big supermarket chain. And I know he's really, really good. Like, he's a really good designer.
Yeah.
Like I went to uni with him, saw his work, saw him. He's so good. He's really high up on their team, I think. But then he'll do a design to try and like just create like a little bit of like break out of the mold, just like a bit, just like a sort of, or cheeky little something. And then it'll go to like a board of people that make the decision. And I'm like, are these people creative people?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, they're lawyers, and they're, copyright people. They're like people that they call, stakeholders is the classic word. And it's like, and I'm like, so what happens after that? And he was like, well, they give me amendments. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, why do these people get to say what?
Yeah.
It's like, I said, it's like the equivalent of a lawyer giving you a legal document and allowing you to make amendments to it.
Yeah.
And then you giving them back saying, oh, you've got to do this, actually.
Yeah.
You don't sue people that way, you sue them this way or something. And it's like, but because it's a money kind of driven thing, a lot of our creative work, then you've got all these people that need to like sign off on it all and this and that. And then by the time that it gets kicked out at the end, it's just bland, and it's not the designer's fault, because they've just been beaten into submission, basically.
Yeah. And I have had the same thing where people have been approving shots, again, for another large supermarket, and the people approving the shots are not creative. They're buyers, or they're head of buying, or they're like, not even head of marketing. They're like, somebody who's, like you say, like a lawyer who has no, I'm not saying lawyers aren't creative, but like they've no interest in
they're just
what
not
you're trying
to be creative. That's the only difference, I think. I'm one of these people where I think everyone has, the capacity to be creative. but it's whether you're employed to be creative for me.
Yeah.
Like, me and you are employed to be creative, and then we're like, should be respected and paid for that.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole point. And we've gone to uni and we've learned and we're qualified or we've work experience in that particular thing. So we should know what we're talking about. And there needs to be sort of a level of trust. Like, I trust a lawyer,
Yeah.
but why can't a lawyer trust me, sort of thing? I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like I'm bashing lawyers, and I've never worked with a lawyer before. But, I think that it's one of those things where a lot of people have a lot of say about creativity, and it's so easy as well for people to just be like, look at something and go, nah, shit, do something else. And it's like, you don't know the reasons why it's not shit, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah.
And it's like, it's so frustrating. If you could see people's creative work before it goes through this filter, this internal editing system, the world of creativity would just be explosive.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's just like you were saying earlier, is money and not getting sued, that kind of thing. And as creatives, you are there to push people's boundaries, especially big corporate, supermarkets or wherever, because how are they going to get more? To me, it's like, how are you going to get more customers in if you're always the same? You're always going to get the same people in. You're never actually going to expand and grow.
Expand.
So I think that's part of it as well.
Yeah, I think there's this sort of like convention of always appealing to this like precious little audience that you've got, and never, occasionally hooking another sort of fish in.
Yeah.
But it's like, really, you should not cast the net wider, not cast a wider net. You should just make another net to cast and keep that. Like, I think the obviously there's that thing of like trying to appeal to everyone, and you don't appeal to anyone, but it's like, be specific with your target. I think that's a huge thing, that target audience. You need to be like a reflection of your target audience. The work needs to be like a reflection of who you want to get in,
Yeah.
Like, if you want to get some geezer on the street who loves, drinking beer and watching football, you don't want to show him some work that evokes the feeling of sitting at home drinking wine. And it's like, it's that kind of like thing. There's just right and wrong conventions that you've got to like stick to. And I think that people's thing is, well, we can have the guy that drinks beer and the wine person, so we'll show beer and wine in the shop, because then it'll put, and then it's like becomes muddy and grey, and then and I think that I can see it now that creativity is just becoming, or like creative output stuff, it's becoming more homogenized, but not because the designers are getting worse. It's because people are getting better at controlling designers with money, basically.
Yeah, I agree with you because it's very similar in my situation. And it's like, they go, well, we want it, or say like you're shooting outdoor lights, say, and they're like, well, we want it kind of like last year's but a little bit different. And you show them something a little bit different and they're like, well, that's too wild. And you're like, we've literally changed one thing, like a little bit of fence or something. And they're like, oh, and they panic. But I think that's also like human nature. People don't like change. No,
but you just got to shove it down their throats.
Yeah.
Basically. I know it's not a very like, I think to myself, with creativity and stuff, like, you've really got to, it's your job as a creative to try and challenge people's idea of things. And whether or not it's like, I always find MasterChef like this really interesting thing of like of creativity, like MasterChef Professionals, right? I love watching it.
Yeah.
But I love watching it because I find it annoys me. So it like fuels this like thing I've got in me about like this, that there's like this creativity thing, that this word gets thrown around. But to me, like, creativity is really, really clear. Like, you either take something that someone knows and you change it, like you reinterpret it, but they know what it is at the core, but you reinterpret it. So then you get your deconstructed eating mess, right? So you got a deconstructed eating mess, and it's got all the same ingredients as an eating mess, but it just looks different, it feels different. it might taste different because of that. But you're like, so it's like sort of shocked you out of, oh my God, I thought I was getting an eaten mess. No, wait, this is all, I don't know, like a cake or whatever. So it's an eaten mess cake. And then you get the other side of it where you go, right, this is an eaten mess, but not like you ever had before. So all the ingredients are different. So you're changing you're keeping one thing familiar, but then you're changing another thing about it. And I always think that that's like, the creativity is like that bit in between that, like that feeling you get and you're like, oh, you know, yeah. Oh, it's not got strawberries in it this time. It's got fucking grapes in it or something.
Yeah.
And it's like that sort of thing is like where creativity can be really fun. You can stretch it and you can pull it and you can push people right to the edge. Like, you know, it looks like an eaten mess, but it tastes like steak and chips or something.
Yeah.
And it's like that unexpected thing of like that it's a different thing, but it's fun. And I always watch MasterChef for it because I think that creativity's become this thing where someone goes, well, I'm going to make an eaten mess, but instead of using strawberries, I'm just going to use blackberries. And that's it. And that's all you've done. And I'm like, you're meant to be a creative chef. You're meant to be creative. Just changing like one single thing isn't pushing the boat. And they're eating it and they're going, oh my God, it's a game changer. And I'm like, no. But you've got to try and like, I always think you've got to like push out your comfort zone. You've got to like try and like really annoy people or frighten people or upset people if you can.
It's like getting that emotion out of people and getting them talking about stuff as well. Like it's as well. I guess it's similar to like Heston Blumenthal. Is that him?
Yeah.
And
well, I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
We went to his restaurant years ago. Me and Nath did to do like one of the kind of tasting menus, and he made like an orange, but it was pate or something inside.
Oh yeah.
Such a mindfuck because nothing looked like it should have tasted. And that's the kind of creativity you want, is where you're like, am I eating an orange or am I eating pate? What am I eating here? Like
that, like straight. That sort of you either make the familiar strange or the strange familiar, and it's like that is, to me, that's creativity. That's just it. That's like the way to describe it to people is that's how we sort of go about it, you know. But it's like people kind of want the familiar to feel familiar, or the strange to feel strange, and it's like they sort of. It's becoming, I've noticed it's becoming really kind of like boxed and polarized, and it's, you know, you peel the what's the new Christmas advert's going to look like this year? They're all going to look the fucking same as the year before and the year before that, because it takes once in a lifetime for someone to come along and do a little animal thing that's singing a nice cover of a Coldplay song or something, and then everyone does it, and then everyone fucking jumps on the bandwagon, and it's like it's so frustrating that that's the industry you work in, because the whole idea of it is that it's meant to be like creative and original and like driving change and things. Yeah. But now it's all just pushed to the sidelines, basically.
Yeah, it's a funny, the Christmas ad thing is funny because they spend so much money on the Christmas adverts, and yet they could be so, like you say, so much more wild than what they actually are. And they'd have spent the same amount of money and still got people talking, you know, which is kind of like the whole point of it, is that people are talking about the, I don't know, John Lewis advert or the Sainsbury's advert or whatever big one comes out. And I think there's also a bit of pressure with John Lewis to be the like top,
the leader
Christmas
of
advert.
it. Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, so you're doing like a dog jumping on a trampoline or whatever, or, you know, what was that one about, like a granddad looking out on the with a telescope and things. But like, it's, you know, are we now done with big adverts? Is this, you know, are they worn out? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, also given the economic state that we're in, they're going to have to be a bit more kind of what's the word I'm looking for, a bit more aware of it, maybe a bit more kind of I think I was talking to Cicely the other day about this. She's in the bar, and I was we were talking about like how, because the economy's kind of a bit so the dog's just walked in. I'm sorry.
Because the economy is a little bit bad, people are pulling much. You're saying that people like small business are are starting to pull like marketing budgets and things like that. You know, we're not going to spend money on stuff, and it's like that's the only thing you should spend money on if the economy's bad.
Yeah.
If the economy's bad, spend money on selling the products that you have or what you've got, rather than trying to like, oh, we're going to put this new thing on, or we're going to try something new. Like, just sell what you have, and the best way to do that is marketing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, you know, I think there's this, because money's involved in it, there's like a nervousness to it all.
Yeah.
You know, this is a French bulldog here. So has made his way to the room.
Oh, he's so cute.
He's cute, but he's like a devil. That noise is Nelson.
Hello, Nelson. Oh, he's so cute.
He's very annoying.
I've actually found that it's the same way with bigger companies as well. They're withholding a little bit more money, and they have been for a few
months. Which is just so strange. It's such a bizarre thing to me, because, like, I get you reduce, like, the basic principles should be surely reduce costs. You know, as in we're going to spend less money. We're going to maybe have to fire some people or whatever. Reduce some costs and then increase sales, and then boom, you've got more money.
Yeah.
What's the main way of increasing sales? Well, marketing your products.
Yeah.
I think it's like it's a counterintuitive business strategy, I think, to reduce marketing spend.
Yeah, I think the same as well, because the market, they forget, they chunk away at the creative stuff, because they're like, oh well, it's just creative things, and actually you know, we make people the most money. If
the return on creative work is so much higher than most stuff.
Yeah, like without the pictures, you don't have a website.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. But they just treat it as this sort of like nice to have thing. I always think it's so. I agree. Like, small business, you know, they don't want the luxury of spending money on some sort of design team or anything.
Yeah.
This dog is very annoying. I'm going to just kick him out of the room.
No worries.
House, come here. Stop barking. Come here. He's lying down now.
Mine couldn't be bothered to walk up all the stairs this morning. She was like, "Fuck that."
Yeah, he's a little bit of a live wire, old Nelson. He's a very noisy dog. He's not a quiet dog.
Weren't you guys on a vet program?
Yeah, we were on the Yorkshire vet.
Oh, yeah.
Because he had to have some really complicated spinal surgery.
Oh.
So one of the guys from Yorkshire Vet comes in the bar, does the quiz nights.
Yeah.
Sorry, so noisy. Does the quiz nights and stuff, and basically Nelson had to have this like spinal reconstruction. Well, it was like he had like a slip disc or protruding disc in his neck, and they had to go in through his throat to his spine. To move all the stuff out of the way, and then they had to chop a tiny piece out of his spine to allow the disc to like settle back into its original position.
Yeah.
And basically he had to go undergo this like surgery that was like 50% success rate and stuff, and we were just like, oh. But they were like, "Can we film it though?" I was like, "Okay, yeah, whatever." I was secretly thinking maybe they would give some money off the surgery.
Yeah.
That didn't fucking happen, but that's fine. No, they were really good. The guys that filmed it were really nice as well, and he's sort of all right now. The old dog.
Oh, bless him.
Just barks a lot. I'm just going to take him out.
Yeah, no worries.
Yo.
Is he? He's gone out. He's chilling. He's gone chilling.
No, he's just gone. I can hear him now scratching at the door.
That's so funny.
He's got like FOMO of everything all the time. Basically.
I saw as well they shot videos they shot some film in the bar as well, which is good for you guys.
Yeah, we did like a special quiz night. They usually do some sort of like reunion with the dog and the vets to sort of like final checkup like months after they've had surgery or whatever. And they came to the quiz night on at the bar, and we basically just like had like a pet themed quiz. We asked everyone to bring their dogs, and it was all pretty good. And they filmed a bit, and I think it's in another episode soon as well, where the vets sort of like cut loose and head to a local bar.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, so it's pretty good. We didn't get much from it, but I don't know if we got much from it in terms of promotion, but it was still, it's still really good to put it out there. Some woman on Twitter said that they thought I was good looking, which was
amazing.
Job done, really.
Yeah, that's what you
Celebrity
need.
box ticked.
Yeah,
like
that's it.
Yeah, but it's really good to get a bit of exposure and stuff like that, and it's always any press is good press, or whatever the phrase is.
Yeah, that's good. So you run quite a lot of community stuff out of your bar as well. You do like workshops and things, don't you?
Yeah, so this bar we've got. So we started it in lockdown, and we were going to start a bar, but lockdown happened. We were in Atlanta in America, come up with the idea for it, come back, and we're like, right, let's start a bar, and then boom, lockdown happened. So we started like an online shop, and basically just sort of kept that plate spinning until we were like, we're just going to keep going with this until we find a premises, and then basically take the online shop and put it in a bar setting with a little bottle shop. And so we started it, and our original intention was to just do British craft beer. But we sort of then started, we didn't want to, we quickly were like, it's a bit kind of like limiting in terms of we didn't know how Brexit was going to pan out and all this stuff. So we thought, let's just start with British things, and we can kind of champion that, and then we can sort of expand and grow as we do. And then we started to slowly kind of integrate more international stuff in. And then now we've just got a fully kind of open thing, although we mostly champion independent stuff and independent British stuff. So we got this bar. It's in an old butcher's in Holmfirth. Renovated ourselves, got some government-backed startup loans to do it, which they were very hesitant about, understandably. But basically, because we were able to show that we had the online shop and that was doing all right, then we could go, we're going to do a bar version of the online shop, and kind of it was an easier pill to swallow, I think.
Yeah.
And then so we started this bar, and basically it's no different to any other craft beer bar in the world, except it's got a crazed graphic designer at its helm. So it's maybe a little bit heavier on the old design output, but I sort of just use it as a little thing to just do anything that I want with no kind of rules. As you said before, I sort of felt a bit kind of hemmed in by the idea of answering someone else's creative briefs. So we started to put this stuff on, and I was like, well, we should just be creative with everything we do, and just apply the idea of creativity to all the things that we put out. So we started to kind of look at the idea of because it's a local community, and it's really a community-led bar, as in the customers are mostly local residents. We always wanted to produce something that was that became part of the community and that was important to the community beyond just a place to go and have a beer, which is also very, I'm not saying it because I'm biased, but I just believe it's an important thing to have a nice space to socialize with people you don't know, and to get out and just to experience a bit of unplanned fun and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the idea was that we were going to sort of really build around the idea of community these kind of events that weren't really about beer. Beer was just sort of a backdrop to all this. So we started a running club, which I'm quite a keen-ish runner. Can you ever be that keen on running?
I don't know.
It's like being slowly tortured. For some reason, people love it. but yeah, so we started this running club, and that sort of it's grown of its own fruition, right? So it has this WhatsApp group, which I'm pretty sure people might find infuriating, and I have nothing to do with it now. I don't organise it. I do nothing. I sell them beer and the occasional T-shirt.
Yeah.
But basically, it's what we wanted. So it's like the model of it is you turn up, there's no like requirement. When we first started out, there was a little bit of like requirement for commitment. We got people to pay like a little fee to like do like a 8-week kind of running course. We got some runners in. We quickly realised if we just opened it up to everyone, people wouldn't feel the burden of commitment. They can just turn up. And it sort of really weirdly made the numbers better and then made the bar sales better off the back of it. So it's all a very positive, business choice. And so we've got this little running club, and now they just organise races. They go to park runs together, the running club. They go for a drink every now and again. They had a Christmas do.
Oh, amazing.
And it's like this thing of like it's created its own, it's its own animal now that it lives and breathes. And it's like the internet. We just can't. I don't know if we could ever shut it down now because people would just still turn up on a Wednesday at 6:30 to run. And so we took that was the first kind of like thing like that we did because you thought, right, it ticks the box. It's positive, it's healthy. It's positive associating us with the community, in terms of like we're promoting running and things like that. And then it also is a social thing as well. So like the people that come running, you can just turn up. You don't need to know anyone. And then everyone will just have a drink together afterwards and you sit. And it's easy because you can just sit and chat about the run. It was hard, that hill was tough, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like that thing where, two people could talk about football in a pub for hours because there's a lot of content to go out.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like that. So it sort of worked really well. So then we started putting a quiz night on. We put that on every Thursday. I run that, but we make it like quite fun. And it's quite like, sporadic in terms of like the content and the form that it takes. And we have do paper airplane competition at the end of it most times, which is great.
Amazing.
And then we started to get on with more like community-based things. So we offer the space out to anyone that really wants to use it for anything that's kind of positive in the community. We hold one of our staff members, Charlie, is like a local artist as well. So she's got like workshops. She's had like a macrame one or macrame, fuck knows how you say it. I don't know if how do you say macrame? Is it macrame?
I don't know whether it's macrame or I think it's macrame. Macrame. I don't know.
I think it's macrame.
Yeah,
it's macrame. We've just
started it. Yeah, that's done.
We'll send that off to the language people.
Yeah,
get them to sort of seal that one in.
Yeah.
So she does the workshop. We've had our staff member Cheryl hosts a sort of drinking club for it's aimed at women to try and sort of get women in the pub kind of thing and feel comfortable being in that kind of space. And that's called Home Girls, but it's a nice little community she's got going. And again, that has its own WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
And yeah, we do. We have a little homebrew club once a month. We have a once a month kind of bottle share thing on a Sunday, where we just invite people to bring an unusual beer. Can be anything, and we'll just crack them open for an hour to no charge. And we just sit around. We try the beers and we talk about them. Why do we like them? Why we don't? There's been some really, really crazy ones. There's been some really unusual stuff. There's been some like Becks and things like that as well. But it's interesting to try them all like within the context of like being a craft beer fan.
Yeah.
And we do like loads of stuff like that. So we've got coming up, we had like a beer blending workshop, free cider tasting, because people don't really appreciate sort of modern day cider making. We sort of felt, so we did like this little free tasting, and we do lots of stuff like that. And the reason why it's like really important is like, but it's not a new idea, is that a pub, when I was younger, I felt like my parents spoke very fondly of like going to the pub and people there, and it's kind of a community. Oh, I got some meat off this guy at the pub and this and that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, because they've very much been commoditized as spaces of like, 2-for-1 cocktails, they're like, cheap lager. So like, there's nothing wrong with any of that, but because it's kind of been stripped out of the thing that makes a pub special in a lot of cases, because of time pubs to like breweries and things like that, or like they're like become restaurants essentially. Most like traditional pubs are basically restaurants with a bar rather than like a pub with a food thing. And I think that we sort of, because Holmfirth's a unique place, we sort of thought of this idea of like trying to make this kind of old style community, like friendly atmosphere. Everyone knows, it's like, it's like a scene out of Cheers if you walk in the bar often enough, and everyone knows everyone, but not in like a horrible, like, everyone's looking at everyone's business. But it's one of those places where we make a lot of effort to talk to the customers and to get to know them. And that's like a conscious thing, we tell staff to do it. And, try and like make customers feel comfortable, and like, craft beer can be a little bit kind of snobby. But the only reason why we chose craft beer as well, because it's got a built-in community with it.
Yeah.
And you kind of get these sort of fans. And one of the biggest things from being a graphic designer is that it's so difficult to create, and I say the word create intentionally, it's so difficult to create community and loyalty and an environment that breeds that in any other way than actually just making a community. Like, there's all this stuff where like they try and make big things feel like, communal stuff, and you're part of this club or whatever, but until you're actually part of the club, you don't feel like you're in it. And we just wanted to make sure that you could there was all this stuff that you could go at. Like, you might not like beer, but you might like doing arts and crafts, or you might have a kid that we have like a thing for kids. We had it Halloween last year. It was great. We had like a little, so almost like a toy making workshop. People brought the kids, and they were like, loved it, because they could just come and have like a drink. The kids are sort of looked after for an hour. It was all free, or it cost like $5 or something. And it's like bringing people in that like wouldn't necessarily kind of hang out together, or don't know each other, or don't know they've got the same interests. And then bang, you've got two people that have got the same interests, and then next time they're in the pub, they say hello. And then it's been amazing to see like genuine friendships blossom from like just the fact that we've got a pub where people have met and have like found out they got similar interests, and then they go into a gig together and this and that, and it's all become this like big community thing. And I hope that it's created this sort of feeling that the bar has become like an essential part of Holmfirth. We've only been open just under 2 years.
Yeah.
And hopefully the residents that come into the bar, or even the wider residents, feel like we're not just here to like make money off the back of, of the people that live there, which we are to make, we're a business, we need to make money and want to make profit and things like that. But we want to do it in a way that's not just faceless and, kind of, I could just so easily not work there. I could so easily just hire a guy to manage it, and have them, do all the things that I do. But I like to be there, I like to be in there and speak to people and motivate these things. And then because it's done that, then people come to me and go, I want to put this on, I want to put that on, I want to try this. And you're like, yeah, you can just do it here. Like, we're not, and it makes it kind of a space to try things out as well. I think that's a big thing. It's sort of small. It's not a big building, but it's big enough to like get enough people in to, try a little. We tried the vintage fair out and stuff like that.
How did that go? Was that good?
It was really good. It was amazing. In fact, like the guys that came just did such a good job. They dressed it all upstairs and put their like stands out and stuff upstairs, and it just looked amazing. It looked like a vintage shop. They brought like rugs with them and stands and some signs, and it just looked so good, and it looked so like exciting as well. And we got loads of people in, and I was so impressed as well. People just coming in. We had a coffee guy on as well. It was his first time doing something, and people come in, grab a coffee, go and buy some vintage clothes, and they were going, and we wouldn't make like a single penny off any of it. But it was so good to see, because it was so like good to see people supporting new stuff and people going out on a limb and trying to like push things, and you know, who'd have thought a vintage fair in a rural community would have been so successful. And people like the vendors were like, I don't know if anyone's going to show up, and you know, and like lots of people did, and it was just so cool. And I got some fresh fits from there as well. You know?
Nice.
Which is,
I saw Cicely and Josh got some bits. I think we were back down south that weekend. I think
we'll do it again. I think for sure.
Yeah.
It was a great weekend. All the vendors were really good, and they sort of really like, I think, did a good job of presenting themselves well, and making it kind of feel like a good little community thing. And we'll definitely do it. And we'll definitely do more stuff like that in the future. But we also need people to get on board and get in touch with us and say, like, I've got this idea I want to try.
Yeah.
You know, we can try and motivate it all the time, but it's good to also have that people to feel like they can have that input in it, and you know, and have sort of, it can be a place for the outlet of their kind of creativity.
Yeah, we definitely, going back to your point of you guys making people feel welcome, when we first walked in and we'd just moved, you immediately said to me, you're like, hiya, do you know Cicely and Josh? Straight away. And I was like, yes, I do know. Like, I'd worked with both of them. And I looked at Nath, and Nath's never met them. And he was like, bloody hell, we've only just walked in here and I already know who we know. And like, but it just made us feel so comfortable. And that's why we, like, when Nate's got a weekend off or whatever, we try and come down for a pint. And it's just a nice place to, I'm always keeping an eye on like what stuff there is community wise that I'm like, oh yeah, actually that takes my fancy, and just have a little look, because it's important. I think you're right. It's important to have these little community bases that aren't just solely for profit, you know, like it's nice to have these, you're giving opportunities to artists and creative people to have this time to showcase what they can do. And maybe like you say, maybe it gives somebody else a creative interest that they've never even thought that they've wanted to try before.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know why I knew that you might know Cicely and Josh. I think they maybe said something that...
Maybe it was just the sheer fact that me and Nathan tattooed as well.
Maybe. I think that she'd like... I think I'd seen something on Instagram, or she'd said something, or what, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's probably a bit of a strong, like, I know people that you know, but you don't know me.
But then I was like, when we got chatting, I was like, I said to Nathan, I was like, oh yeah, that's it. We're in with the landlord in a pub. And then we got chatting to Sam next door at Cask, and my mum came up, and she was really impressed with the IPAs you had on, actually. So she can't get IPAs in France. So she's like, whenever she comes, she's like, oh my God, an IPA. Oh. And then we went into Cask, and she was like essentially flirting with Sam. And yes, Mum, I have dropped you in it. But she was like, oh, Sam, I'll bring you some wine to try. I'll bring you this. Like, oh God, Mum, no. Yeah. No, he's my wine guy, not yours.
Yeah, it's naughty. But yeah, we I think that generally speaking, we're just trying to push the community thing to just keep it going, to just keep the ball rolling on it, and hopefully it'll then mean that in years to come we can, you know, it having given, we'll try to give to the community, that we can rely on them to give back to us, which they do. Like, I'm not saying they don't, to support us and as a business and things like that. And I think it's just created a really nice like ecosystem for us to live within.
Yeah, I really like it.
Thanks.
It's you've done the right thing, because it's the same. I have the same memories as you, with my dad being like, "Oh, I've just seen a man down the pub about, I don't know, he's come home with like a chicken, or with, like, or all of a sudden he's got a job out of it." And I think it's like it's an important part of the community, and I think you've approached it the right way, and we quite enjoy it. Sometimes Naif's anxiety gets a bit much for him, so he's like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to go down." And I'm like, "You don't even have to talk to anyone. You can just sit and have a pint and be quiet."
You got to talk to me if you're coming in there and I'm talking to you.
Yeah. Well, we saw our next door neighbour from over the road, and he was like, "Oh, let's have a pint." Ended up having like 2 more pints with him, and then his partner rang and was like, "You coming home for tea or what?" We'd distracted him for another hour and a half.
Yeah, that's the thing that we see a lot going on. But it's nice. It's really nice. People just get chatting, and I love when people come in on their own and they sort of are open to like speaking to other people. And just they're not, because there's this thing because of COVID or like what, you're always a bit suspicious of people that like are chatty for some reason. But it's nothing, everyone's super friendly, and that's what's made it really, is the customers like you guys and people coming in that are just like willing to be open to like talking to other people.
Yeah. And I think it helps as well that you're so dog friendly, because I think having that opener of like, "Can I stroke your dog?" And then you can, all of a sudden you're chatting to someone for like an hour because you've just literally given their dog a fuss. It's like the best thing. We haven't brought Coco in actually yet. We'll have to come when it's a bit of a quieter time for her.
Yeah, she'd get a bit sort of,
She's a bit of an anxious gal.
So our dog Nelson's like that. He won't. He's just too much for him to be in the pub. We were hoping he'd be a good pub dog, but he's crap.
He's like, "Nah, leave me at home."
Just wants to sit on the sofa and bark.
Yeah, that's it. She's like, she just goes a bit nervous and then like lays down and is like, "I'm not sure." And then like people walk past us and she's like, "All right, I'll get going now." Just interested. But yeah, I've tried her at a couple of pubs like outdoors, and but if you've had too many pints, it's really hard to walk a strong staffy home, because it's stubborn and get in your way, and then I'm like fall over or whatever, look like a drunken mess. So but oh well, thank you so much for chatting to me today, Luke. It has been so lovely to hear your story and how you got into your graphic design and how you got into opening a bar, and it's a great space, and I really like it. So
thanks for talking to me. I'm glad we could get together, and I'll see you in the pub probably one of these days.
Yes, you will see me in the pub. Probably this weekend, maybe. Yeah, Naif's off on the bank holiday Monday, so I'll drag him down.
Bank holiday, I forgot it's bank holiday.
Fucking bank holidays, they're screwing me up in May.
It's too many of them for little old me. I can't work that much.
You need a break.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
Well, thanks so much, mate.
All right, thank you, Charlie. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please rate, follow and share, as it really helps this little podcast out. And if you have found value in the podcast and you have the means to, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. This will help keep the podcast going. Join me next week for another fantastic guest. Bye!